Vision 6-1, The Legendary Kingdom. Stop, Palema. We'll take it from here by ourselves. Thanks, Palema. My pleasure. I'm glad to be of help. Klonoa, do be careful. Okay, I know. Okay, let's go, Hupo. What's the matter, Hupo? It's nothing. Klonoa? Ghadius, his plans. We've got to put an end to it. Right. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Piglet here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Let's Play of Klonoa Daughter Phantomile for the PlayStation 1. In this case, the original PlayStation, as to be more precise with it. So, yeah, last time we actually did completely done with, like, we actually did manage to done both Vision 5-1 and possibly, in my opinion, one of the longer levels of the game, which appears to be Vision 5-2. And we did manage to beat the likes out of the Joker, even though despite the fact that I did have a hard time on that particular boss, because I will say this for this point right about now, Joker was easily, in my opinion, is one of the hardest boss fights in the game. It's most notably because it gives me a lot of troublesome at points. Because of that, though, then I managed to go in the end, though. So today for this video is the fact that we're about to be exploring through Vision 6 now, which appears to be we're going to be exploring through Vision 6-1, as you can see there, that we're going to be exploring through the Moon Kingdom, not to be confused as Super Mario Odyssey, even though, unlike in Super Mario Odyssey, that's about the fact that we're exploring for the actual moon. Whilst in this, it's like a moon crystal palace of any sorts. So even then, those times we're able to actually explore for that particular point or what have you. So even then, now I think this might actually be the final worlds that we can able to actually find the actual pieces of the citizens, as you can see. Well, it wasn't until whenever we get to like 6-2 that we're able to actually grab the final 6 of those citizens that we can able to obtain through. So, yeah, the main gimmick of this level, as you can see right there, is the fact that, as you can see, there are 4 different color variations of those little, you know, special crystallized, Ghadius shapes. And because of this, though, they attempt to block the actual sun progressions, is the fact that in order to actually continue through your proceedings of this level, that you need to keep on destroying those little particular crystal stuff, because if you do, then you would able to actually continue your progress onto this level alone. So even then, though, that's the whole entire purpose of how this level will actually plays out. So, yeah, you get the idea for that. And this is where the difficulty will start to able to actually increase a bit. But honestly, I found this level to be kind of easy, and it's not overstay as welcome, unlike any forms of how it does it on the Vision 5. Well, I will say for this right about now is that I still find Vision 5 is one of the most tricky and difficult levels of the game. Well, not until later on anyway, though I would mention more on that whenever we get to that point. So, but I digress. So, yeah, today was actually forms of the 23rd of May, in this case in 2019, and conveniently enough is the fact that one thing I forgot to mention about this actually, especially noticeable in my Super Luigi Galaxy Let's Play, is the fact that, you remember I said this before, about the fact that the Aladdin remake film will be releasing at some point, so far anyway, until today. It will be releasing at some point tomorrow, but it turns out I was wrong, because somehow, for whatever reason, in our country, in UK, they managed to able to actually just to release that particular film about 2 days early before its original release. So, that seems very odd and inconvenient, or what have you. But even then, there's a little bit more of a confusion side of things with all this release dates confirmation and stuff like that for that throughout. But even I know I might be looking forward to that though, but it might not nearly matches up to the forms of how it does it on 1992 Classic. So even I know I might be curious to able to actually see how this will turns out. And well, of course, I'm not going to spoil things too much about it, and I haven't really looked up on the actual film review of it yet, because of how the fact that it's a little bit too early to able to discuss at this point, especially noticeable this is a newly released film, and there's not much else I can talk about that. So even then, kudos to that. See, Fernando, some things I want to mention about this, potentially speaking, is the fact that, well, you know how this week, in this case, for this particular weekend, as far as I meant to say, normally that Sonic and Pinkie Pie will still be able to go back into the forms of, Super Mario Party Let's Play, but, well, they'll mention more details onto that, though, when they get to the last two modes of, free play, or in this case, in the minigames catalog. So even then, that might be serves the case. So, anyways though, so now we need to able to get the next piece of the citizen right there, and let's just hope if we don't get exploded by that little bomb right there, and hopefully I could... Oh, why do I do that? Ah, the knockback occurrence. Ah, that's pretty stupid. But anyways, another thing I want to explain about this actually is the fact that I've actually, when I was looking up something on Nintendo Everything and stuff like that, usually kind of think about it, the only thing I've actually discovered recently, and that was the forms of how the fact that recently, well, enjoying the likes of at some point enjoying the likes of the Android users or something like that, they managed to able to actually access to the forms of Mario Kart Tour as in a beta version. And as far as I've seen the footage of the game, most notably the beta version of Mario Kart Tour, it's actually pretty interesting, and it's also feels kind of like how it does it on, you know, it's very similar to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario Run almost, although except the notable difference is the fact that it's a racing game instead of like the platforming endless runner or something like that. So, and another noticeable difference I realized is the fact that, well, as far as I've noticed on the actual character roster on Mario Kart Tour so far, well, usually if you probably look it up by then, but even then though, that, well, we haven't still got the actual official release date for that game yet, for Mario Kart Tour, which is the only game I'm really looking forward to on the smartphones, especially noticeable with, you know, Dr. Mario World exponentially, but, for the time being, we'll just have to mainly, you know, trying to discuss upon about the forms of, Mario Kart Tour from now on though. So, as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure it's going to be ended up like a, I believe as far as I've seen the actual footage of that game so far, when it comes to the beta version of Mario Kart Tour, that how the fact of the matter is though, is that much like any forms of how it does it on Super Mario Run, usually back in 2016 through 17, that you still need to require the internet connection in order to actually play the game, which truly makes it obvious because it makes it more accurately the online play accessibilities and stuff. It could be potential speaking of such, but even then, that's one thing I should probably point out. So even then, as far as I've seen the actual beta gameplay footage of Mario Kart Tour, it just feels kind of like, let's just say, well, the graphics themselves aren't that really, it's not that perfect by any means. It looks good by the forms of like some Nintendo smartphones games these days, but even then, there are a few times though when I've seen several racetracks makes a return, especially from Mario Kart's past. Even then, as far as the actual, like, the courses they actually did add in for the forms of Mario Kart Tour, surprisingly enough, it doesn't seem to able to add new courses and stuff. So I'm presuming that with Mario Kart Tour in mind, I'm assuming that it might actually take place back in during the past Mario Kart installments from specific tracks in their specific cups in general. So even then though, that I'm probably able to actually look up on the list right about now, just to have a look to see if how the fact that, well, how much tracks they actually contains. Well, I do definitely know they might actually contains quite a few number of them, but even though I haven't really looked upon specifically once. But even then, there's how the list right now. So even then, first off we have is Super Nintendo track from Super Mario Kart makes a return for the forms of Choco Island 2, which thankfully did make a comeback ever since in Mario Kart DS, ever since in the Lightning Cup. And there's also 3DS Toad Circuit and Mario Circuit from both from Mario Kart 7, and especially noticeable with 3DS Daisy Hills, also from Mario Kart 7, and N64 Koopa Troopa Beach makes a return ever since in Mario Kart 7 and originated from Mario Kart 64. And same applies for Nintendo GameCube's Dino Dino Jungle from Mario Kart Double Dash, and they managed to make that track return ever since in Mario Kart 7 as well. And in addition with that, Luigi's Mansion DS, or in this case DS Luigi's Mansion track from originated from Mario Kart DS, and they managed to bring that track back ever since back in during the likes of in 2011 for Mario Kart 7. So even then though, they managed to bring that track back, at least ever since, Mario Kart 7. So that's as far as I can say about it here. What on earth is that egg-looking shape right there? But it appears to be, we'll find anything else, more details about this, until, let's just say the last platforming level in the entire game. So even then though, once you destroy the actual crystal, specifically the white crystal, then the level is pretty much finished. So, I guess I'll probably mention more details about Mario Kart Tour until any second, because, after all, we've only got one more level left, specifically for saving those citizens now. So even then though, once that's been sorted, then, well, sure enough, we can able to actually, finish up the main game and stuff. So even then though, I still can't believe that this game is really, really short, until the next Klonoa game we might actually tackle through in the future, most notably Empire of Dreams for the Game Boy Advance, and especially noticeable with Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil, which, we'll point things out at some point soon. Sir Hupo! Sir Hupo! Oh, sir! We've been waiting for you. Our kingdom has been taken over by someone named Ghadius. What? We were careless. He traps Levis into the egg below. And it is now pouring energy from nightmares inside it. Mother! Huh? If that egg is released, it will be disastrous for everyone. I understand, Mother. Please keep out of harm's way. Mother? Hupo? Who are you? Hupo. Klonoa? I'm really... I'm really the Prince of Krace, the Moon Kingdom. What? But... The ring spirit was my disguise. I had a reason to go into the outside world. Reason? I'm sorry. I can't say anything about that now. But I promise to tell you everything later. Hupo? I want you to just trust me. Just a little bit more? Can you help us just a little bit more, Klonoa? Hupo? What are you talking about? We've been friends forever, right? Klonoa, thank you. Hupo, you found yourselves a fine friend. Yes, Mother. Let's go. Okay. Mother, please find someplace safe. Hupo, we're counting on you. Yes. So wait, all of a sudden Hupo was actually now in a human formation? Oh gee, that could be only been one thing, but until later on throughout the story. See, for then, onwards to the Forms of Vision 6-2, possibly, to me though, is one of the second longest level in the whole entire game. To me though anyway, because, well, it's nothing too lengthy, I don't feel like. It's just that, well, when it comes to towards the end of the game, I understand this is easily the final points of the game, like, for instance, like the final main platforming level as far as I've noticed, and because of this though, we need to keep on traversing for those different door sections, and then every time you actually approach onto, oh, I almost died there, And let's just go ahead and just... Yeah, thankfully though, with the PlayStation controller, it just makes the platforming segments so easy. Especially noticeable on the, you know how the actual directional pad was actually like, further to the left, almost? So even then, I'm very glad that's been usually a thing, mind you. So, but I digress. So, yeah, the main gimmick of, Vision 6-2, in this case, the last main platforming level on the main story mode until, you know, later on anyway, though, because I'm not going to spoil things. Excuse me. Not going to spoil things too much, but I do apologize with my belching. I apologize because, well, I'm just eating too much stuff. So even I know eating too much stuff could be a bad thing, but it's just that I just need to take myself easier when it comes to my commentary skills and stuff. So hopefully that might be the case for this video at this point. So, but I digress. So, anyways, though, we've now actually stumbled across these new types of enemies, as you can see right there, and these were essentially able to summon those, or in this case, trying to spread out those burrowing projectiles at you. So sometimes they comes off as pretty fast and pretty unpredictable at the same time, but apart from that, though, these guys are not much of a threat to me, though. So either way, let's just go ahead and just destroy that huge enemy right there. And we need to perform a double jump right there. Yeah, you're gonna have to keep on using a lot of enemies as projectiles to able to actually activate most of these switches. Because yes, the main gimmick of this level is the fact that we need to keep on activating those switches before you proceeding to the actual level. So sometimes though, I will admit though, is the fact that the actual level length for this level though can be a little bit too lengthy, especially these sections, because, well, basically, unlike in any other Switch sections, is the fact that, well, normally you're simply able to actually activate them normally. But in this particular stages like this, is the fact that, well, in these sections anyway, though, I'm presuming you have to do this like 3 times in this level. So, in this case, we need to do with all these switches. In this case, we need to activate all these switches while it's timed. So, but if you don't make it in time, well, you have to do the entire Switch puzzle section again. So, but even then, whenever we get to the Wii remake, though, it just makes the actual process slightly easy. But to me, I always having a hard time on this first part, because either way, sometimes because of my jumps wasn't exactly as accurate. But especially noticeable with that, you know that respawning enemies as I was on about a little bit earlier ago? Well, that maybe seems the case in this level, because either way, sometimes I always attempt to get hit by those enemies most of the time, whenever they come out of nowhere and stuff. So yeah, that can get a little bit more of a trickier subject of mind. And, as a result, though, if you keep screwing things with the actual switches section, well, you can able to retry them as many times as you want, but, most of the time, if you keep on screwing things up, well, you don't die, though, so that's the only good thing. But it's just that, if you keep screwing things off over and over again in each different sections of the level, well, you just have to go over the entire process over and over again. So that might be the only trickiest part about this level, though, to me, though. But apart from that, though, it's pretty simple, self-explanatory kind of thing about it. The only time it makes it incredibly difficult, though, as I said before, with the switches system, and especially noticeable with the actual some difficult platforming sections where you have to utilize the enemies themselves by simply able to actually just to achieve a lot of double jump chain reaction going on right there. Especially noticeable like this section here, especially noticeable that I'm pretty much at the halfway point of the obtaining every single citizens for this point now. So even then though, speaking of which, we're almost done with the actual the level itself. I know we're in the halfway point of the level though, on the other hand though, because, well, aside from the actual upcoming boss fight later on though, so, well, looks like I've managed to go above from 30 extra lives again, so that's pretty cool stuff altogether. Because of that though, you know, it's pretty dang easy to get extra lives in this game, as I said before. Even I said this countless amount of times from the past, so, yeah, that's as far as I can say about it, so. But I digress though. So, yeah, it turns out that I haven't looked up on the forms of the actual film review of Aladdin Remake just yet. And so whenever I decide to mention about that, when it gets to the point until whenever I decide to go back to Super Luigi Galaxy, or if, you know, Sonic and Pinkie Pie were able to get back onto Super Mario Party. So, but even then, that might be seems the case. So, but I digress. So, Oh, really? Okay, that's fine. So, even then, because I need to get the next piece of the citizens, and we've only got about 2 more to go, because, the actual citizens you might actually go ahead and obtain from is actually a grand total of 72 of them. So, even then, once you grab all 72 of those, you know, the peoples of that particular tokens, Again, I can't really pronounce the actual collectibles are called, per se, because I haven't really looked upon the actual instruction manual of the game for quite some time. But even then, I will mention more on that whenever I get to the final 2 videos. Because, yes, by that time, until next week or so, most notably for Tuesday and Thursday especially, for next 2 of those days, I think this Let's Play might actually come towards the end and join in new forms of the next week or so. So even then, though, should be surprising and especially noticeable with how the fact that, well, when it comes to the other future Let's Plays that we might actually go ahead and do, like some redo ones and some new ones, well, we decided able to hold up for a moment for new Let's Plays for the time being, and focusing on some redo Let's Plays for the time. Like, for instance, Sonic needs to able to now... I want to discuss about this right about now, about the fact that with the redo Let's Play of Sonic Lost World, specifically on the Wii U version, because it's much more superior than the 3DS version in my opinion, and especially noticeable with the forms of how the fact that to make it an improved quality, unlike the forms of how it does it on certain cutscenes on the 3DS version, because, well, usually it just gets like a pretty crappy quality and stuff, but at least on the Wii U version, that the cutscenes themselves looks absolutely gorgeous, so... But I digress though. So, as far as someone else can able to actually, or some toys were able to actually decide to able to do that particular redo Let's Play, I figured maybe Sonic were able to actually do with that game after when he's gone through for Shadow the Hedgehog since, you know, at the very end of April and stuff. And it seems, speaking of Shadow the Hedgehog actually, so far, I haven't really gone back onto the PS2 version as much. At least I did manage to get back onto the Xbox version, so that, well, I've already gone through all the A ranks on that version of the game, and I'm basically at the progression of the Expert mode. So, whenever I played Expert mode on the first time on my original Xbox version, holy crap, I died several times because I cannot even memorize the actual level layouts for the actual... stages themselves, especially on the expert mode. So even then, it might take me a lot of practice at some point or another, but even then, actually let me know in the comments below if decide to able to say that what you guys love to see, we like to able to do with our run through of Shadow the Hedgehog expert mode, or especially noticeable that in our own time anyway, we still managed to get ourselves the unlockable mode for Sonic Heroes, which appears to be super hard mode. But I haven't really exactly completed that, because obviously that is such a ridiculous mode of the actual Sonic Heroes game and stuff. So even then though, then let me know in the comments below, see if that we can able to decide to do one of the two. But even then though, it all depends of the different taste anyway, so... And another thing I want to say about this actually, for those of you the bronies out there, especially noticeable for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fans, like myself included, recently, about the fact that, you know I mentioned this before, about the fact that we've already got ourselves the Season 6 complete DVD set at this point recently, and I did manage to check on the actual episodes guide, most notably all 26 episodes, because I say that is because I was a little bit worried at first, because for some stupid reason on Amazon.co.uk website, managed to get some sort of a tiny mistake where basically, it did manage to show off some episodes. They're actually going to be included on each 4 discs. But it turns out they're actually missing one episode, which appears to be based off from episode 19, which is called The Fault of Our Cutie, Cutie Marks or something. I can't really, remember what the actual episode is named again, because I know it's been such a long while since we've actually watched My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because at this point... we're still mainly focusing on Season 9 at this point, so even then, speaking of Season 9 actually, is the fact that we've only got about 2 more days to go until the next episode, which appears to be Sweet and Smoky, which is on, we're suing in episode 9 in Season 9, so, yeah, convenience, I know, but even then, I'm really looking forward to able to watching that, because, surprisingly enough, in episode 8, that, I think I've explained about this before, about the fact that, well, it's actually called, Threat Enemies, I think to me that Frenemies is actually one of the best episodes so far in Season 9. Because not only because of how the fact that it's all funny and all that stuff, what I felt like anyway, but it's also about the fact that we actually got ourselves a villain's song, and especially noticeable for the villain's episode for once. So yeah, it's a pretty cool, sweet stuff. And even then, well, that won't last for long, regrettably, because well, obviously for the majority of the future episodes, it's going to be most likely yet again focusing on Twilight Sparkle and the gang and stuff again, but at least I don't mind about it too much, because even then, that I still really enjoyed the show, at least ever since back in 2012, specifically at the very end of 2012, because, you know, back in 2010, or especially noticeable in 2011, I was a bit skeptical at first, because I just managed to pass on it, especially noticeable that I keep always watching The Princess and the Frog that time, and especially noticeable with the new film I was really into at this point, and that is Rio, which is not, it wasn't until in August where I decided able to become interested with that particular film, because I always loved the actual art style of that particular film. Strangely enough, though, is the fact that one thing I forgot to say is that the first Rio film was now 8 years old. Jesus Christ. I know it's been time gone really flying at this point, but aside from that, though, I can't believe it's that so much old. I mean, jeez. At least I still managed to get the physical DVD release of Rio, but still, I can't believe that film is now 8 years old by then. Well, it wasn't until in 2021 it will be specifically 10 years old for that time. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. I just really can't help it for myself about the fact that most of these days can really just manage to go time flying by through, especially with how, you know, if you manage to do work, jobs, or especially noticeable for playing games and stuff, and going out in places, watching movies, watching TV series and all that stuff, then you can definitely tell about the fact that the time itself just goes ridiculously quick. Especially noticeable how the fact that if the day itself managed to end. So, but I digress. There we go, folks, onto this final Switch puzzle segment, which, thankfully, though, I found this section to be a lot easier than the other two, because, well, in the second Switch section, I always seems to have some occasional, mistakes here and there, but on the first, puzzle section, I always have a hard time, because, well, the actual wind bullet on this version, I will admit though right away, is not exactly accurate, but either way, it still looks pretty cool enough as it is. So once you're able to figure this out, then you know. And also very much like in the forms of how it does it on Vision 5-1 is that every time you actually accomplish these sections like this, you always have to return back onto the previous section you've already been into since the very beginning of the level. So just keep that in mind, but accept the fact that we need to keep on going through traversing for those different doors, which actually leads us to the different parts of the level. So in this case, I believe we are, surely enough, not only to get ourselves another heart, but it's also another extra life and another piece of heart as well. And then as soon as we get into this door right there, then I believe we got ourselves another boss, which used to be Ghadius, basically. See, Fernando? Here I come, Ghadius. Soon, the Nightmare Crystal Naha Tube will be ready. But what is this dream? A dream that can't be corrupted by nightmares. It must be removed. It must be eliminated. For the creation of the perfect Naha Tube. A visitor? A traveler of foolish dreams. How amusing. I did not anticipate you following me all the way here. Ghadius. Looks like you're a little too late, though. Why are you doing this? Why? I am tired of this foolish world that incarnates nightmares and relies only on good dreams. This is reason enough. What gives you the right to do this? When Nahatube is unleashed, you'll be erased too. It doesn't matter. I have already been abandoned by the world. This time, it's my turn to throw the world away. No! Never! Very well. Meet your doom. Alright, so here we go, folks. This is the forms of Ghadius boss fight. Now, thankfully, though, this boss fight, is a lot more easier to me than the forms of how it does it on the Joker fight. Because the only problem I have with the Joker fight sometimes, not only because it's difficult or anything, it's just that I feel like the Joker fight really overstated welcome. At least in this particular boss fight, it's self-explanatory, and it also kind of feels a bit similar to the forms of the Joker fight. But except the fact that, well, it usually takes place in a 2D perspective rather than on the 3D plane. So even then, it's kind of like the same thing from here, but except the fact that this weak spot was actually on its body. So even then, though, thankfully, though, you don't have to be more precise than it will attempt to will be. So, and also, once in a while, though, every time you're actually done with one phase of the fight, as you can tell, this boss fight actually has 3 phases. Like, in the first phase, it's very simple. It's the fact that every time he spreads out these bubbles, which contains the actual enemy nightmare meteor shower and stuff, but it's also he's trying to summon those enemies, which we all do need as projectiles to begin with. And then that way, once you're able to obtain those enemies as projectiles, then you can able to throw it right onto its weak spot, which appears to be on this really weird visual sprite and stuff. So even then, though, I know it's a little bit odd, but even then it might be supposed to be something related to darkness and stuff. So that I digress. So yeah, this boss fight kind of reminds me of that one particular boss fight. If you remember from, well, in this case, one of those boss fights from Sonic Mania, when you're trying to deal with Dr. Robotnik in Titan Mahaj level, is the fact that, as you can see, we're actually gone outside of the actual battle arena. Because, as you can tell, if you accidentally touched by those spherical orb things, I don't know exactly what these are called, but if you somehow get touched by those, it actually transports you into these mini segments. You know, kind of like how he did on those hologram fists from the Sonic Mania boss fight in Titanic Montage. But even then, though, that in Act 2 level as it is. And then that way, it takes you to some of these mini sequence of the actual outside of the battle arena itself. So, yeah, it kind of reminds me of that sometimes. So, but even then, though, oh god, I'm almost gonna die at any point. And speaking of such, here's my death here. So, but that's okay though, because even then, to me, this boss fight is a lot easier than the Joker fight, and especially noticeable since I'm actually in the halfway point of that boss fight. So, it doesn't really matter to me though, anyway. So let's just try this again. So, hopefully though, with a much more better attempt than it used to be. So even then, I would assume that I'm pretty sure I've done this a little bit slightly better. So, well, not most of the time though anyway, because sometimes I'm always missing those little shots at mind, especially because I swear I did manage to trying to get these enemies as projectiles and stuff. Although the only thing you need to keep that in mind though is the fact that if you somehow leave the enemies alone, and then whenever they try to land on the ground on the actual battle arena, basically they're trying to able to jump off. You know, kind of like how we did on that beginning portion of Vision 4-2 almost. But except, well, we do need to use these enemies to able to actually attack Ghadius and stuff. So, that way it deals the job done for that. So, and also that, for whatever reason, it just sort of reminds me of Nightmare almost from Kirby's Adventure / Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland for the Game Boy Advance. Although, except the fact that, well, it appears to be sort of similar, but I digress. But whatever. So anyways, let's get into the second phase. As you can see right there, is that obviously he now summons those 3 little non-obtainable projectile objects, and he can use them for detached enemies so that they can able to fly all over the place, which I found the second part to be slightly tricky, but here's the third and final phase, as you can see right there, because every time you see those 3 different colored Ghadius' head, this means we're able to move on to the third, and this is actually the final section of the this boss, so, in this case, the third and the final phase of the fight, so, but in this case, he got himself his triangular barrier shield, and he's got covered in enemies inside of it. But what we need to do is the fact that we need to use the wind bullets to able to attack those little green stuff. Well, I don't know exactly what you call these aggressively, and then this way it will able to release these enemies out of the actual shield barrier. And then, just like usual, we need to able to, well, obtain the enemies as projectiles and throw right back at Ghadius. So, that's as far as I can say with this boss fight in general. So even then though, again, it's extremely easy compared to the forms of how it does it on the Joker fight in my opinion, because you know how the fact that how much I get a lot of frustration on that particular previous boss fight. But at least in this boss fight in particular, it's not too bad, honestly. And since we don't have any cutscenes or anything like that, so it just jumps straight into the forms of the world's map screen. Because of this though, I believe we got ourselves a lot of cutscenes for that point. So join me next time for Let's Play Klonoa Daughter Phantomile. Is the fact that, well, we might as well see what happens there until next Tuesday or something. Because, well, I was assuming we might actually get into the final vision of the game, folks. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.